From Muhammadu Buhari to Minister Kemi Adeosun to Bola Ahmed Tinubu to Ademola Adeleke and now Uche Geoffrey Nnaji. The menace of certificate forgery scandals amongst top and leading Nigerian politicians has continued to reverberate in the past decade. And the problem is not just that certificate forgery or forgery of any kind, according to Nigerian law, both in the criminal code and the penal code, are serious crimes that attract 3 years imprisonment in southern Nigeria and 14 years imprisonment in northern Nigeria. But also, it undermines the struggles and strives of individuals who continue to suffer to obtain academic credentials at various levels, be it university degree, secondary school certificates, or even NYSC certificates, in which individuals are forced to spend 3 weeks at orientation camps that most of the students would rather not spend there, and also go to distant lands to serve for a period of 1 year. A lot of people will call that with hard labor because it's mostly among strangers that you have never known all your lives. These are the stripes that individuals will have to pass through to obtain certificates. But these individuals will now have to sit back and watch those who have never obtained some of these certificates and also do not have the common courtesy of admitting that they have never obtained some of these certificates and accepted just ordinary school certificates as required by the Constitution, but also went further to obtain forged certificates and submit same to authorities seeking elective and appointive positions in the Nigerian system. And this brings us to a very, very serious situation in which young people begin to see that probably certificates are not important, but not just that certificates are not important, but that actions do not have consequences. Because while there were cases of certificates forgery with President Muhammadu Buhari, he ruled Nigeria for 8 years uninterrupted, handed over power, and was applauded and is still applauded by many, and just died a few months ago and was accorded state burial. We also have the current president of Nigeria, whose certificates in Chicago University is still murky. Currently, the issues continue to reverberate across all weather, and we are asking, what kind of system do you want to present to Nigerians? And joining me to discuss this particular issue is no other person than Mr. George Simon, a journalist and social affairs analyst. George Simon, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Zoba. I'm happy to be here, especially on a good day like this that we're talking about certificate forgery. Is it really a menace, or we're just finding out because APC is in power? People are now doing anyhow, so it's easier to get people that forge their certificate as well, because we know that this is something that has wrecked our universities, especially universities, because of the poor recording system we have in universities. Are we really going to blame these people for taking advantage of the courts in Nigeria, the level of corruption that we have in other institutions which enable this certificate forgery?
No, well, you are saying that, okay, probably it's not a new thing, or whether it's the record keeping in the universities, but we've seen people forge as little as first living certificates. Remember the case of John Leon and his deputy in Bayelsa State. The guy forged from first school living to WAEC. It's not
PhD.
It's not the same name that did the first school living, that took the WAEC, that took the degree and NYSC and even the PhD and every other thing. And we want to understand, is it a systemic thing generally?
It's not systemic, but Nigeria, there is this focus on academic achievement. Initially, it was just WAEC that was required for you to hold most position in Nigeria. It still is. But like everybody that wants to show up wants to show that they have gone far. Like, this is a vast knowledge. Take the case for the president of Nigeria, who had to lie that he went to secondary school in University College in Ibadan. They brought out all the sets that were supposed to be his set, and he was not there. He said, no, it's not Ibadan, it's Lagos. Even though when he finished secondary school, the Lagos one has not been opened yet, you have situation like this, then the disturbing situation in Chicago University where a woman went to school, and we have a president now, and because he's not transgender, obviously. So you have situations like that. You have people that accuse NYC at some point that, you know, they served, and NYC is like, you didn't serve, and they say they served twice. And on both occasions, the two certificates, NYC said, we didn't know where this thing is coming from. The man insisted, he went to court, and the court said, it's allowed. You know, you can, as long as the signature there is from somebody from the NYC, is legit. It doesn't matter if your file number is bad, or if the file number is already belongs to someone else, but as long as you know who signed and you can point the person that signed, is legit. So we have situations like this. There was a time one guy that was president of Nigeria was accused of certificate forgery that he doesn't even have any. He brought 20 cents. Like they say, present your results and, you know, you can go scot-free. He brought 20 cents for 9 subjects. So you have had scenarios like this. So it's not like certificate forgery is not something that is new. They say, but now with APC, the lack of, you know, the commitment to catching people that do these things, or punishments, you know, if there is lack of consequence, how do you discourage people from engaging in certificate forgery?
Now, apart from it being a systemic thing, because as much as we have these individuals, yearly we have at least, it's not at least, we have more than 15,000 young men and women who go for NYSC, who are duly you know, mobilize for NYSC and complete their service here, get their certificates. And somehow, it's only this set of people that have problems with their entire credentials that find a way to make it to the top. Because we are saying this because basically it's only the few that have been investigated that we are finding out, because the rest that seems like they do not have certificate issue is probably because they have not been investigated. And we are thinking of, what is it about Nigeria that makes it possible that only such individuals make it to the top?
You would say only such individuals make it to the top. You know that there are other people who are very well qualified. We even had at some point Professor Ben Ayade as a governor in Nigeria, and we saw the results. So most times people even dismiss it because we have seen the ones that are qualified, and you know, they are qualified with certificates, but the output is poor. You look at somebody like Dave Umahi, who is well qualified, you understand, and an engineer and every other thing. You have people like that. So it's not just an all-comers affair. But you have to understand that with the way we have been practicing corruption in this country over time, these things are bound to happen. And when it happens, it's the consequence that matters. During PDP era, if you are caught with fake certificate, automatically you are not going to hold any position again. We are hearing this Uche Nigerian now. He's still the minister in Nigeria. And why will you discourage him why will you encourage him to resign when he will look at a president served for 8 years without a secondary school certificate and nothing happened? Somebody else took, you know, NYC to court and got result. And you know, is the type of people that also engage in this thing. Nobody has come out and accused nobody has accused the deputy governor of Enugu State of certificate forgery. Nobody is looking to accuse him of such, because people that he went to school with can affirm that at some point we saw him here. But if you are one of those that where you wrote GCE, you know, is a waterlogged area, maybe you don't know the address again, maybe the paint has washed off and all those other stuff. You have situations like that. So these things, it aids forgery a lot. Then some people, they forge their own in a legitimate way, which is a very big problem.
Describe what you mean by forging legitimately. Because
the minister is insisting that he has certificates that's from UNN. The school is saying we did not really issue this certificate, and he has a certificate that he got from the school. So if the school is saying it's fake, it might be legitimate fake. I know it's a confusing word, but in Nigerian parlance, this is something that is common. So the question is whether it's witch hunt. We saw in the case of Ademola Adeleke where they later claimed it was witch hunt, because he's still governor up to today.
And he's preparing for his second term.
Yep. We have seen situations where, even the president of Nigeria, the University of Chicago came out and said he got his certificate from them. Even though where he printed the one he was parading was not from them, but he schooled there. So we have had situations like that. This student, one day now, UNN might come out and say, yes, indeed, schooled here. He indeed, graduated from this place. Even though the certificate he has, maybe the person that signed it is dead, or the person does not exist again, but he's schooled there. So we have situations like that. So when you talk about systemic forging of certificate and code, no, it's corruption being broadened. Now, when you see corruption in proper effects, it means that everything becomes questionable. Whether Zoba self that we saw in school probably graduated, it becomes questionable because at some point maybe he quarreled with one or two lecturers.
And
who is the new VC? Yes, who is the new VC? Or maybe you didn't have 100,000 when others were paying for their own certificates, and coming back 20 years later, the school will say they don't know you because maybe they have burnt your files. You know these things happen in schools, so you have to bring back to the poor academic record we have. Because if somebody actually went to a school, if you see schools that have proper alumni, if you graduate, if for instance after graduation you get an opportunity to serve the country in any capacity, maybe a local government chairman, the school will be one of the first people to congratulate you for getting there. If, for instance, as people are seeing you now, your school can come out tomorrow and say they are so proud of Zoba the Great for all you have achieved, you have other people saying, they really like what George did when he was here, because the school recognized that you attended and they have strong alumni. But you have situations where somebody is celebrating. For instance, the governor of Enugu State, Peter Mba, you saw how Go Unique, were carrying on his head as one of their students when he was celebrating. Although we didn't see his first degree and second degree school celebrating like that, but at least he had Go Unique to fall back on. So if the minister has somewhere to fall back on, we might not be seen as certificate forgery like the way you are seeing it presently. He might just call, if UNN can call him tomorrow and say, you are our great son, this certificate will not be into question again.
No, let's move from that, because it's all modeled up in corruption. But I want to understand, I personally would want to understand, because if all of these issues usually surround those who make it to the top, now the question basically is, people who are currently in school, people who are about to enter school, what is their fate in the general Nigerian political system, knowing that whether you have this or not, you can just get to wherever you want to get to, and you can forget about this thing and just go chase whatever you are chasing. And
we see the effect every year. You understand, the corruption it actually starts in the schools. Like you know very well, most of the WAEC students now, most of them don't read like people before them read. Like, I can ask some people that did literature in 2011, 2012, 2013, and ask them, which books did you read, which poetry and all those things, and they will remember it. Have you tried asking people that got their certificates in the 2020s? It becomes a big problem. You see situations where students are sent to go and do IT, and they are more focused on signing their logbooks than doing IT. You see that situation nearly all the time. Some people will send them out to, capture things, snap with their video, do video and everything, give them instructions, and when they come back, it becomes a big problem. You understand? So we have this situation. It's already within our school system. And if we don't nip it in the bud early, we will see people dropping out at some point saying, since they can printer is not that costly. Let's be honest. To print this certificate, sign some of these things is not that costly.
Stuff and submit.
Yes, so that's why it's ample of constitution. Like we know when Tony Moye had that problem too.
Yes,
but he's a senator now. He was like, he said, even when I said he attended there and he stopped at some point, he said he finished. So people are learning that you can actually accuse an institution of awarding you whatever and they can say they didn't award you, and you can still get victory.
And you can go to court and tell them that
they should inform the school that they awarded you with this certificate. People have done it and gotten away with this. The current governor, insisted that NYC gave him his certificate. He backed it up in court, and after everything, it was overturned. So it's either the institutions are doing witch hunts, or actually people are forging certificates. Whichever one, our courts have set the standard that anybody can come and claim whatever they have as it is, as long as you can prove to the court that the school does not have merit to question your certificate.
So probably instead of going to obtain a PhD from any Nigerian university, you can just call yourself doctor and save the money.
You can hire SANS,
and
because the current situation now, nursing is SANS. It's the normal route, because it's in the court that they will determine. The governor had SANS, our former president had SANS, our current president had SANS. So will you really say certificate forgery is a problem when we have a president who we don't know his actual age, his actual name, his actual village, his actual parents, his actual school, primary, secondary, university, his actual country? We are not even sure. Because Guinea could be in the picture. So when you look at this situation, how do you now start questioning someone else for certificate forgery? It's this same court, with court is precedent. If somebody like this can be allowed to continue, why can't we allow this other person to present certificate that he got from the school?
All right. This is a very serious matter. So let's move on to mitigation. How do we mitigate this? How do we even begin to solve these myriads of problems? Because since we started this show, we've just been talking about the problems, the one with the universities, the one with the courts. The courts are moving from deciding the elections for us, deciding who becomes our leader, to also deciding who went to school and who didn't go to school. And then everything revolves around one big problem or the other. So, but I want to know, how do we begin to mitigate this? How do we begin to solve this kind of problem so that we can find ourselves in a sane society where if you want to become a leader, okay, this are the things you need to do for you to get to the top echelon of the society?
The first thing is to hire people who it's their job to verify certificates. You understand? If what INEC is doing is subpar, that's what it proves. Nobody has been punished in INEC for denying people election at the end of the day. Because Ademola Adeleke was denied contesting, in an election he won because he didn't have YX certificates, only for him to run again and win. And nobody in INEC was punished for this. You have situations where people get ahead, like the president the court said that it was pre-election matter, which means it's INEC's failure. And if you're going to sue anybody, you have to sue INEC to withdraw whatever certificate that they issued the person. So you have these situations. It will get to a point where people will forge certificate of return, and it sees that they won an election, they did not win. Because the main thing is to prove that the signature there belongs to the INEC chairman.
And if the court tells the INEC chairman that this is your signature, and the INEC chairman says it's not,
then it doesn't matter. Once it's your signature that is there. That's what we have learned so far, that with regards to going to court, as long as you can affirm who appended the signature there, that it's correct, you have a certificate. Now we have situations where we need to hire people that will verify these certificates. There are professionals that do it. We also have to make sure that INEC do their job, which is to disqualify people from participating if they have their certificate comes into question. Then somebody should be punished if INEC denies somebody a chance of contesting or allow somebody with a certificate to contest an election. The chairman, at least, or somebody that is doing a job, should go to jail. Certificate forgers should go to jail as prescribed in our law, until we show signs that there is going to be consequences for this situation. Then it's going to go on unabated. Because why should I bother stressing myself when I can print this certificate at home? Because some of these people don't even bother paying the school. They just print at home and parade it, because this is the situation of things in Nigeria. If WAEC can come out and affirm a certificate for somebody that did not write WAEC You know, you understand? We have had these situations. So we need to make sure that our institutions are strong enough to withstand the challenge of, you know, stopping some people in there, because some people are bigger than others in this country, and you have to have a situation where the institutions will stand strong.
You are talking about institutions standing strong and also talking about INEC having a unit to verify certificates. But in the current case of the Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, the DSS, the Nigeria Secret Police, investigated every minister whose name came up. They even dropped RFI and one other guy. After doing the background checks, and people are asking, if such thing that is perhaps obvious escaped the Nigerian Secret Police, which other institution do you want to set up that can begin to look into all of these things?
Well, maybe the DSS have checked and he had certificates. Because when he presented the certificate, they would have asked within the school system and they would have gotten the feedback that this person has a certificate. The issue becomes the politics we play in Nigeria. Remember that in as much as I hold slides for him, the current Vice Chancellor of UNN, he belongs to a different party to the one that Honorable Naji belongs to. And when you have such situations where people have an obvious side they belong to, you know, everything that comes out, every statement that comes out will be questioned. The question now is, why is it known that UNN, because I've been parading with this certificate for quite a while, why is it known that somebody that is an opposition is in office, that is a certificate, that they are making categorical statement that this person did not get the certificate from this place?
And that is also in the light of the fact that sometime in 2023, the same institution arising from the registrar's office says that he graduated from the school at this particular point in time.
Did he graduate or not? That's the question now, because somebody else got to power. Maybe the last time around, the people there were not meticulous. Let's presume that the current Vice Chancellor and his team are more meticulous. Now, what is the punishment for the people that came out earlier to say he has certificate? What if it's those ones that know that he has certificate and this current one don't know because they have not checked all the record, or maybe because his minister, they are hiding his record?
But that also calls for another question, because actions should have consequences. So if somebody said the minister has a certificate and the minister does not have a certificate, that person should lose his or her job.
Or if you say he doesn't have a certificate
and he does,
somebody
should lose his or her job. So why do we have such contradictory statements coming from the same institution and nobody is losing his or her job?
Like I said, it draws back to my point. If you want to get this right, it means the institutions have to improve. Our record system is poor, because if it's not poor, he will just type his reg number and it will show whether his transcript will show. But when he went to school, they were writing it with hand. I know written, maybe the person wrote Naji instead of Naji or Neji. We don't know. We can't be too sure. And like I said, people ordinarily would have, you know, clamored for the minister to resign or for him to be punished. But like I said, the current chancellor is someone in opposition party. He's a Democratic Party, and the current minister is in APC. So people have reasons to doubt statements emanating from this, if it is not politics entirely, especially since the current governor is you know, the people feel like this is his major opposition, and this kind of certificate situation will knock him off his ground, you understand? So, and people can say, oh, maybe this is what is happening, but we have had this certificate problem for long. That is hard to doubt that somebody cannot forge certificate. After all, the governor, or the current governor, was accused of forging his NYC certificate, even though he proved in court that he did not forge it because he knows who signed the signature. But he was accused of same, and he even insisted that he went to serve twice, which is still baffling up to this one. But he has been freed of that. So maybe the minister will go in that direction. But like I said, it exposes how poor our institutions are. That one individual will leave, another engineer will come on board
And
and
say a
a
different
different
thing.
thing altogether.
And the question now is, where do we go from here?
First of all, we have to make sure that we have strong institutions. We have to have reasonable people in this country. We have to try as much as possible that we have enough reasonable people, because Nigerians are not as reasonable as we like to present ourselves. We need to get enough reasonable people. People that we know that whatever politics that is being played is something that is going to affect their life. If somebody is parading with a fake certificate, it's an indictment against the people that elected him. This is something you need to find out who you are supporting, what is his academic background, what did he do while in school, did he play football, did he play sports. People can tell you about Chimaroke Ndaman, what he was like when he was in UNN. People can tell you the kind of things Bubu did when he was in school. People can describe these people and say, oh, when Professor Chinedu Nebo was in school, this is what it's like. But all of a sudden, with the emergence of APC, we are having people in Enugu who cannot explain the school they went, or people that were classmates with them. You can point towards anybody and say, who is your classmate, and they will struggle. But you have people that others will come, they say, this guy was my guy in secondary school, he used to play football very well, all those kinds. He used to stay quiet on his own. So the situation is, how our people do we verify those that we support? Until we start doing that, even if our institution is strong and we have a weak voting populace, we are still going to get weak leaders.
We may still have to get weak leaders. And that is from George Simon there, as we are looking at the forgery scandals facing Nigerian politics, and of course, where we will take it from here. And my final word is, when we live in a country, when we live in a nation where anything goes, the problem is not that we are having issues. There are scandals everywhere in the country. The problem is not that there are crimes. There are crimes everywhere in the world. There are scandals everywhere in the world. But the problem in Nigeria is that actions do not go with consequences. And whenever people watch and they see that action A did not go with any consequence B, then they too will be emboldened to continue to commit action A. And that is the problem of Nigeria. And for every citizen, for every individual, and for everybody who is in position of authority, it is very important and very necessary that we ensure that actions do have consequences. I am Ugwabo Emmanuel Chizoba. I'm from African Telecast United. I'm telling you, bye-bye for now.